Got a couple more small effects for you that I'll give you access to through my effects actions. I've got a flare and a vignette effect that are pretty straightforward. The flare, you just click on it and run it. Select the flares you want to use. I'm going to pick, and I will supply you with all these flares plus a ton of brushes that I downloaded off the internet. They're not mine. I didn't create them. I got them from Brush Easy and things like that. So I chose this flare to add, and it runs through a series of steps to create the action for you, or it runs the action to create all these different things for you. If I double click on this, I can then edit this flare. So say for example, I want to modify this flare, so I'm going to hit Command or Control J to duplicate that. I'm going to change this one into screen mode, and then I'm going to press my V key to get to whoops. Okay, and press the V key to rotate this thing, and let's get something that looks a little more like sun rays. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify the canvas size here. Okay, and let's go, let's change this to, let's make it 200% in both directions. Okay, and I'm going to go from the bottom corner and enlarge that. Okay, and it creates a large canvas for me. So I'll press Command or Control 0 to fit to my screen. I'm going to generate a black layer and put it at the bottom just by hitting Control Backspace, because you look, my black is my background color. Then I'm just going to merge these two, select them, press Command or Control E to merge them down. And actually I can do that again, Command or Control E to merge them all down, so it merges them together. Then let's go add some more flares. I want to add another flare. Let's go look at my desktop or my folder. I got a flare here that I want to add. I'm going to simply drag it out onto here, and you can combine these and to get whatever kind of shape or look you want. I'm going to select this and change its mode to screen again. Okay, so what screen does is it eliminates the black, so now when I pull this over top, it just adds to the flare rather than blocking it out. So let's put it approximately there. I'm going to move my center point to this location, and you'll see I've done this before, obviously, hence the reason why I know exactly what I'm doing. So let's go on to scroll this up. I'm going to make this larger to create some crazy looking flare, and say OK to that. Then it places that together. I can leave it there. I can press Command or Control E. I can create a new layer. I can go into my brushes, and the brushes I'm going to give you are these lens flare brushes. And you, in other words, you can build up a flare and create some ridiculous look however you want. So let's just put this in here. Okay, and then I'm going to manipulate this one. Again, press the V key on my keyboard and change my center point. Let's put the center point down to this flare center point. And I'm going to simply just grab hold of this, pull it larger, and rotate it around because I want it kind of in line with the other flare that's there. And hit OK. And I want to reduce the opacity of this, so you can see I'm building up the flare that I want. It's like a ridiculously out of control flare, but you'll see. And then I hit the X key on that little PSB layer. Because it's a smart object, it'll write that information back into the flare that was placed on the file. So you'll see this simple starburst will change once this finishes saving. It does take a little bit to save this back because they're fairly large images. But once it does, you'll see the modification of it, and I'll be able to manipulate where the flare goes, where it shows up. So obviously I'm going to place this. Okay, you can see where the flare is going. So I want this to do just the opposite. I'm going to flip this around. Okay, and create it some sort of alignment like that. Let's drop this up into this corner just off the screen, and I want to rotate it back again and pull it back down like where the sun is, and I'm going to hit OK, or hit the check mark to accept that. Now there's a Gaussian blur on here. If I double click on the Gaussian blur and then click up somewhere in the clouds here, you can kind of see the let's move off a little bit more. There's the light rays. So right now there's a very small, like 0.1 radius. So let's increase this. We'll go 3.6. Let's go to 6. That looks pretty good. And we'll say OK to that. Now there is a gradient map on here. This gradient map applies some coloration to it. And by default, it's got this warm look to it. To edit that, all I have to do is double click on the gradient map, and you can see it is not actually a gradient, it's a solid color, but all I have to do is change this color into whatever color I want. So I'm going to leave it at that gold color, and we'll say OK to that. Now there is a blend if on here, and what this will do is allow me to pull this back to say, okay, I don't want to affect the shadows as much, so you can see the flare. If you look specifically at this arc flare, you can see that the land in the background, I don't want to apply it to the shadows quite as dramatically, so let's go, we'll pull this up and just manipulate it till you get the look that you want, and you can pull it back from the highlights and say, well, I don't want to see those quite dramatically, things like that. So that's all done. Now you can finally adjust the opacity to create, let's go to a little bit lower than that, a little less obnoxious. Okay, so we go from simple image to an image with some flare, and you can see it. You can kind of see it. It's very subtle. I can make it more subtle, obviously, by pulling back on the opacity, but you'll see what you can get is some really neat effects. You can build them up however you want. Again, I will supply you. There's, I think, 38 flare images, plus there's, oh God, there's probably almost 100 brushes in here. And they're all included in the link that I'll give you. So I hope you enjoy. Let me know if you like it, and stay tuned. I'll get another one for you in just a minute.